All right, let's bring in Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports. Oh, man, senior NFL writer. Wow. What is your reaction, and translate this for me?
Well, Eric, let me tell you, I was literally in the TD Garden for Kevin Garnett's jersey retirement. And then this happened. And so then I ran home. And so here I am. I'm telling people, Boston fans, hey, Tom Brady's back. And so it is truly an incredible experience. What was your question?
What translate this for me? I mean, does this mean the family wanted me to retire? I was home for 2 months. They tapped me on the shoulder and said, all right, go back. Enough. Really, seriously. I mean, is this, he never really was retired? Does this mean somebody talked to me? I mean, how do you sort of, kind of rectify the fact that he said, I'm out, and now he's back in so quickly?
Well, I think, and he had said this in his first retirement post. He had talked about how, hey, what I care about is my family. I want to spend time with the family. I cannot commit to football in the way that I wanted to. And so because of that, he is retiring. But he never used the word retire, right? And so everybody kind of said, all right, Tom, you're going to miss the locker room a little bit. You're going to miss the camaraderie with the guys. And so now Tom Brady makes this decision right after he was just at a European soccer game for a team that is owned by the Glazers, who also own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that maybe that was a hint, if you will. But I can tell you this, having talked with folks with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as I was jogging home, sprinting home from TD Garden, this was a surprise to some folks within that franchise. Obviously, the very, very top of that organization probably got a heads up, but this was a stunner to many folks over there. This was not something that they had planned. There are no press releases that are planned right now. This is a surprise to many there in Tampa, a very pleasant surprise there for the Buccaneers.
What do you expect the reaction to be around the league? And then I guess the second part would be, I'll make it in Boston where you are, but first around the league and then in Boston.
Well, listen, I can tell you this. There were a number of teams. I had one very interested NFL team. I don't even want to specify what conference, but an NFL team that had reached out to me as we're talking about free agency stuff over these past couple of days, 48 hours, who said, hey, is Tom really retired? Because they are in the market for a quarterback. This is a team that you wouldn't think is in the market for a quarterback, trying to keep it on the low, but was very interested in the possibility of acquiring Tom Brady. And I was like, well, I think he's retired. Everything that I'm hearing is he's done. No, he didn't use the word retired, but he's done. And you heard from Bruce Arians there at the Combine in Indianapolis, where he had said, listen, if San Francisco, if another team wants him, we're going to need a whole lot of first-round picks. It's impossible. We're not just going to let him retire and just to let him go. And so here he is. When you look at it, he signed a 2-year deal initially. After the first year, that magical Super Bowl run, he signed that extension. And I had always thought that he would be chasing Steve DeBerg's record of the oldest starting quarterback in NFL history. Well, when he starts week 1 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he will have that record at 45-plus years old as being the oldest starting quarterback in NFL history. And then when you consider how this impacts the landscape, Eric, of the quarterback sort of market and the moves that may be made. Well, Tampa was keeping a very close watch on Deshaun Watson. In fact, there were interested teams who were telling me, hey, we're a little worried about Tampa because they offer very clear and empirical evidence of, hey, if you're a great quarterback, you can come in here, plug and play, and we can go to the playoffs. We can potentially win a championship. The specter of being coached by Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians would have been attractive to Deshaun Watson. And so now you remove Tampa, a team that a lot of folks thought, hey, they got a shot at Deshaun Watson, just like the Cleveland Browns, the New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers, maybe the Seattle Seahawks. And so this affects that. This affects the NFC South as teams thought that they could make their move and start working their way to the throne in the NFC South.
Which is exactly where I'm going next. Continue to make those dominoes fall for me. They had an offensive line retirement. Gronk's a free agent. Leonard Fournette's a free agent. This is going to have a ripple effect. You mentioned Deshaun Watson. There are reports that maybe Tampa's interested in Baker Mayfield. What happens with him now? What are some of the ripple effects that could and you think will happen with Brady? I don't even know if we call it unretiring. Here's the point. He's coming back. He's going to play for Tampa next year.
I've always called Tom Brady the Mona Lisa of the NFL. And what that means is you can't put a price on Tom Brady, what he brings your franchise. You want to talk about the economic impact that the Mona Lisa brings to Paris or to France? Well, it's all just funny numbers, right? Well, when you look at Tom Brady, what is his impact? How much can you pay him? Can you actually pay him enough? Because go back to that Super Bowl run in the offseason after that, and they were able to bring back Shaq Barrett on that long-term deal where he could have gotten more elsewhere. They were able to bring back Leonard Fournette when he could have gotten more elsewhere. You know, Chris Godwin, of course, they tagged, but any number of other free agents who said, you know what, let's try to get another Lombardi here in Tampa. Obviously, it didn't work out. They came very close there in the playoffs. But now, I say all that to say, they could potentially, with all of these free agents that they're looking at right now, some of them may want to take less. Maybe Ndamukong Suh, sort of a career mercenary, who for the first time in his career last year didn't go hit the open market hoping to make and cash in as much as he possibly could. Maybe he decides to stay with Tampa, and we can continue to see that happen as other players, free agents, flock to Tampa. And I tell you this, Eric, I was speaking with an NFL executive earlier today who said, hey, there are more, on average, there are more free agents this year than in years past, and there is less cap money to be used on these free agents because teams sort of, they were crunched by the COVID-19 restrictions last year, and so they kicked the can down the road. So there's less money to spend, and there's more free agents. And so after this first wave, a lot of guys who may think they're going to get paid aren't actually going to get paid. Maybe those guys say, you know what, I don't mind if I don't get paid this year. Let me sign a one-year deal. Let me go join Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Those are things that I can see when you talk about the dominoes with one team. But when you talk about the real ripple effects outside of the NFL, okay, well, now do the New Orleans Saints look at this as, hey, maybe this NFC South isn't ours for the taking anymore, and maybe they finally hit the reset button like they should, considering all of their cap issues and situations. You look elsewhere, you mentioned Baker Mayfield. Well, that's not a place that Cleveland can ship off Baker Mayfield to in Tampa anymore. And again, I bring up Deshaun Watson, a guy who is probably going to have to make his decision between Monday and Wednesday afternoon. Well, Tampa is no longer in there, and so whether he wanted to go to Tampa or whether his representation wanted to use the ghost of Tampa as leverage, if you will, that no longer is there.
There you go. CBS Sports senior NFL writer Jonathan Jones giving us great stuff regarding Tom Brady, who will play for the Bucs next year. And you see, like, he wasn't exactly a slouch last year. Set the NFL all-time record for completions in a season. Threw it 719 times. That's not an expression. That actually happened. Led the NFL in passing touchdowns and threw for over 5,300 yards. Yikes.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.